And when we are both high, we can chit-chat, laugh, and just be silly. Okay? Now, down here, because it's a very, very cheap stage of life, and all of us have no choice but to occupy from time to time, something happens where it can happen organically or it can kind of be forced upon you. It's like you're a smoker in this class, and you come to this class, and for whatever the reason, some of the ideas that we talk about makes you feel bad when you go home and smoke. And that creates an opening. But just because there's an opening, it doesn't mean you're going to quit smoking because you've been a smoker for the past 15 years. That's a great amount of years to be addicted to something. And you have friends revolving around that particular addiction. You have language revolving around that addiction, okay? When you come up here and your definition of pleasure changes, to some extent what you're saying is the way I see myself has changed now, okay? Up here, you have maybe 20 friends. Now, what usually happens is, as you're moving up, you come back down to these people, some of the friends that you have, and you say, listen, maybe we should not smoke as much. Maybe we should go to Laney, sign up for some classes, and take school a bit more serious. You know, if you're no longer 18, we're like approaching 90. What do you guys think? Now, it may be that some of your friends were really just waiting for someone to walk into their life and push them to this place where they can go to school, spend their money on something that's more valuable. Now, there comes a point, now remember, this stage of bronze has its own set of desires, needs, wants, and all of that stuff. There comes a point where you say to yourself, I have money, I have a house, I have degrees, i.e., I have power, but there is no one in my life. I have no intimacy. This is all about you. This is all about you. But when you get to the silver, you say, I want to share myself and I want to share my life with someone who is decent. I don't want a smoker. I don't want someone who's just going to school for money and power. I want someone who's gone through all that stuff. They are ready to settle down. So the definition of pleasure up here, when you move into silver, is you want a companion who's stable in the head, who's stable in the heart, that not every day you go home, there's a tsunami waiting for you, okay? And you realize that here you have your own needs and wants, okay? Now you have a wife, let's just say in your case, if you're hetero, and you have children. And out of the 20 friends you have here and 50 down here, you realize none of them are good for your family life, for the world in which you live. Okay? The definition of pleasure changes. The way you see yourself changes. And none of this stuff applies to you anymore. Now, when you're up here, something interesting happens. Once in a while, you go down and you have intimacy with your companion. When you're down here and you have sex, it doesn't mean you have intimacy. But when you're up here and you go down there, you have intimacy. You know how to use sex and why it's there. Sometimes it is there to remove stress. Sometimes it is there to remind you that, yes, both of you are still friends and are intimate and are close. Your life is still going and everything is fine. Okay? Now, the school you went to and the money that is the outcome of your degree is now spent on your family, on your kids, taken to Disneyland. So if down here you used money, okay, to smoke, whatever money you made up here in the bronze by going to school making tons of money, I have a relative, and it's just where he is in life right now. He graduated from computer science, Berkeley, a couple years ago. He got a job at Google, $170,000, 20-year-old. Went to New York, got a job, $220,000 a year. What does he do? Smoke. Okay. So just because someone has gone to school and has a degree, it doesn't mean they have understanding or they have maturity. They just have a degree. So at all these different stages, you have language being used for specific reasons, expressing specific needs and wants and complaints. People up here will never go down here. I mean, they'll slip once in a while, okay? But the language that revolves around pleasure and power used by iron is very different than the language and the definition of language used by people in bronze or silver, okay? There is yet another category of people, and they're called gold. The nice thing about iron, bronze, and silver is that they're all physical. You know why you have anger and hate inside you. It's your father. It's your mother. It's your boyfriend. It's your girlfriend. It's the class you're taking. It's your job. It's the customers. You can see them, touch them. Okay? There comes a point where you say, I've gone through all of these three stages. I've done the drugs, I've done the sex, I've done the drinking, I've done the partying. It's no longer fun. I went to school, I got my degrees, I got the job, I made money and I saved money. It's okay. It brings some stability and security to life, not bad. But for some strange reason, it's not enough. I got married. Got a great companion, beautiful children, a nice house. For some strange reason, it's not enough, and I don't know why. It's the story of the salmon fish we talked about yesterday. For those of you who were not in the philosophy class on Tuesday and Thursday, again, for those of you who are interested in these ideas, you're always welcome to just come and sit and visit. The life of a salmon fish starts as a tiny little egg that gets pushed by the force of the water to the sea or the ocean. And by the time this egg gets to the ocean, it's a living, quacking fish. And very much like the mapping here, the fish has fun swimming, collecting friends, having lots of sex, drinking and smoking and laughing and crying. And then the fish says, well, maybe I should go to a fish school and learn the philosophy of what it means to be a fish. And then he gets a job at the University of Fishness, inspires other fish how to be a better fish. And then at a certain point, the fish says, maybe I should get married, and the fish does. Salmon's life is interesting because at a certain point, something cracks open in his psychology or her psychology. He says, I've done all of this stuff, it's not enough. And he goes to his wife and he says, you know, I love you, but for some strange reason, I feel as if my life is too small. I don't want a divorce. I don't want to quit my job, but for some strange reason, I hate everything about myself. And of course, because such narratives are not part of this culture, your wife has no choice but to say, honey, should I make an appointment with your therapist? And you say, there is nothing wrong. Well, there is something wrong. I just don't know. And you go to your therapist and he says, so, what's your issue? I don't know. And it's like you have found a gadfly, a Socrates from within. Everything you touch is examined, is observed, and ultimately you realize it's trashed. Little by little, through the force of observation, like the salmon fish, you slowly turn your back to your physical life. You're no longer interested about your work. You're no longer interested in your wife. You're no longer interested in your kids. You love them. You're just not interested. And there comes a point, the salmon fish says, I don't know why, I don't know how, I want to go back home. It's like a man or a woman saying to their companion, I just want to go figure out who I am. The salmon fish, they just do it much better than we do. And because the salmon lives in the sea and the ocean, their journey is very, very complicated. They have to figure out, and they do it intuitively, instinctually. They don't think about this. And that's one of the things you need to understand, that at a certain point of your own maturity, your action is no longer rational. It's intuitive. But it is intuitive after you have gone through all these different stages. Never listen to a 20, a 30, a 40, or a 50, or a 60-year-old man or teacher. Never listen to a teacher who's never been married, who doesn't have money. Okay? It's no good if you're poor to say, oh, money has no value. No, be rich. Be very rich. And then come to realize that your richness has saturated the way you think about money. You have used money to do all sorts of things only to realize you're still in space number one. It doesn't matter where you go. Okay? The salmon eventually has to go back to finding where the seed was, this tiny little egg. At the worst time of the year, the bears are awake, they're standing, they're waiting for the salmon to fly upwards, and many do, and many are devoured. A few get to their destination. How, why, who the hell knows? There, they lay some eggs and they die. At a certain point, the human being says, I no longer know who I am, I no longer know what I'm doing. And you go to your mom and you say, I think I want to walk away from you, my life. And your mom says, well, that's not a Christian thing to do, son. Don't you have any integrity? Don't you have any self-respect? That's unethical. You say, yes, but I'm a salmon fish, mom. I've made a life for myself only to realize it's no longer a home. And I don't know what home is, and I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know what it feels like. All I know is I'm lost and confused. I love my kids. I love my husband or my wife. But I feel like being a stranger in a strange land. Do you have any questions before I... Yeah.
So, is the process kind of like art? Like, for example, Picasso goes to art school and learns all the rules about art, color, and line, and contrast, and imagery. Or a poet learns all the rules about language and has this vast vocabulary, and then takes all that knowledge and goes and kind of puts it aside, and then creates their art that doesn't really follow those rules, but with awareness of those rules. Like you can't be an artist without knowing that, but you actually end up throwing all that out.
If you were to put that within the context of, say, the life of a man named Jesus 2,000-3,000 years ago, what you have is a guy who leaves his family at the age of 12, goes to India, goes to Iran, goes to Tibet, supposedly, and comes back with a bucket of knowledge and insight. And then when people ask him questions, he doesn't say, well, why don't you read this book? He tells them a story. He has enough experience to wing it. If you're talking about Picasso, in that particular context, then yes, it's true. You need to have the discipline and the structure and the basic knowledge. And then you kind of get cooked in that knowledge. And you realize that oftentimes knowledge betrays you because you want to apply it, it doesn't work. And then you have to kind of revise and refine for many, 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 many years until you become very, very proficient. Then, yes, you can improvise. Okay? But until then, it's like a strict diet. Anyone else? Yeah.
So I think what I'm understanding is the salmon is returning to source, right, in a sense.
Right.
So I guess the idea is that we're born from source, right? We're born with some kind of knowledge, and these are the steps that we have to take in a sense to reach this gold level, but the gold level is just returning back to source.
You're right, but, and this is not about you, of course, but you put it in such a simple way. It sounds good, but it's a little offensive. And it's not about you, trust me. It's like a woman going to a man and saying, I need you to respect me as a woman. Oh, okay. That sounds easy enough. How do I do that? Well, just respect me. Yeah, I want to. But you need to understand that first, my eyes are attracted only to things that are beautiful. And when you see something beautiful, you want to touch it. You're beautiful, so I want to touch you. Well, no, touch my intellect. Yeah, but for that, I need a different set of eyes, and I don't have them. How do I get those eyes? Well, just listen to what I'm saying. Yeah, but I need to first be interested in the things that you're saying. And what the woman is saying, you know how you were an infant, you looked at the opposite sex, and you were so innocent, so naive, you guys just played. You had no ulterior motives except just to have fun. And then let's just say you're the woman and I'm the man, and that's the stuff you're telling me, respect me as a woman. And I said, have you ever examined how men and women view sex and how different they are? How women view sex as opposed to how a man views sex? No, I've never thought about that, you say? Well, did you know that in capitalism, if Marx is right, ultimately everything turns into meat, things to be used and had and exploited? Did you also know that most of the movies I watch, most of the video games I play, they have about 85, 90% of sexual elements or components involved? The culture has made me hypersexualized. What exactly do you expect from me? You want me to respect you as a human? Well, change society. Give me a different set of advertisements. Addict me in a different way. If I'm an alcoholic and I've been an alcoholic for the past 25 years, you can't just come to me and say, quit. I am the way I am because of biology and sociology. History. You want me to be a different man? Change the environment. Don't just give me a bumper sticker. So what usually happens, yes, you're born. I don't know if there is God inside you or not. Okay? All I know is that you're born, and let's say you're very, very healthy, and you have 5 senses. You have your eyes, you have your nose, you have your ears, you have your touch, and you have your taste. These 5 components are your Messiah. You don't need to be told by Jesus Christ whether or not you like broccoli. Look at broccoli. Is it attractive to your eyes? If it is, you walk towards it. Then you touch it. Is it attractive to your touch? If yes, you'll pick it up. Then you bring it to your nose. Is it attractive to your nose? If your nose says yes, you put it in your mouth. If your tongue approves, you will swallow. Organic. These 5 portals connect you to the physical world out there. You will become this, the physical world is invited. What lives inside you is all the stuff that you have experienced in your past 30, 40, 50 years of your life. There is nothing spiritual about it. It's all physical. Your emotions are physical. This is capitalism. This is a profoundly secular environment, which means your emotions are secular. Your fears are not about your soul. It's about feeling this class. This class you can see, touch, taste, smell. Your anger is not about the wrath of God. It's about what your father did, what your mother did. Your regrets are not having lost your soul. But you had a boyfriend. You let him go so easily. Now you want him back. He's not coming back. There is no source to go to for you and I. Imagine now the word soul is a piece of advertisement. When you come to my class, I put the fear of your future inside you. Grade, college, money, social status, old age, health care. That's what I advertise. And if you have a soul, your soul is a container for my advertisement. Your soul is secular. It's filled with meat. I'm not Jesus Christ. He's going to give you a different set of advertisements. He's going to define your soul differently. He's going to give you fears, but those fears are related to something very, very different. So if you want to know what lives inside you, ask yourself, who has walked into your life? Because they are billboards. They are filled with history. And that history is eventually going to be given to you. You and I are filled with other people's ideas and information, incompetence, insecurities. For those of you who are interested, there is a book that came out in its 2nd edition right now. It's called The Right to be Human. It's the life of Abraham Maslow. It's really, really, really a good book. It's about, 25,000 pages. You can read the whole thing in one sitting. So for those of you who are interested and you want to get to know different sides of yourself, perhaps, check this book out. If you want a different set of advertisement to go inside your soul, if you have one, first someone needs to walk into your life and get rid of the stuff that lives inside you. You won't let them go. You're far too attached. They make you who you are. You know where your anger comes from. You know where your confusion comes from. And when someone comes in and says, it's kind of like going to a therapist, really. Every time you want to react, your therapist says, fast, refrain, abstain from expressing these emotions, keep it to yourself, detach, observe. And there needs to come a time where the therapist will keep telling you, your dad, remember your dad? Then you won't feel anything. Now you're ready for a different set of advertisements. Now you're ready to go into a relationship. Understanding the history of your father, understanding the history of your father and how it relates to you, but that history no longer impacts you. Now you can move in life freely. You have a different kind of a soul. But it takes a lot of giving up, a lot of seeing, a lot of feeling, a lot of understanding. Let me tell you one last story and then we'll go home. Yeah, Sheldon, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, what should the idea of the soul even mean?
I have no idea. It's a container of things. It's like this. Inside it is your soul. And my soul there is just coffee. And it's black. Yeah. Since you enjoy tattoos and tattooing, I'll tell you a story about tattoos and tattooing. It comes from my good friend Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi Balkhi, i.e. Rumi. It's about someone like me who goes to your shop because your tattoos look so intoxicating. I want one. I've always desired one. So I go to your shop and I say, Wolf, I want a tattoo on my right arm. And you say, a tattoo of what? I want a lion. Not a rat. I had a student many years ago. She had tattooed 2 carrots on her chest. And I asked why. It looks so ridiculous. She said, oh, because she said, I watched the History Channel and they had attached all these gadgets to the carrots to see if the carrots feel any pain as they're being dug out of the ground. And sure enough, the carrots were screaming, no, don't do this to me. And she was so moved by the pain and the sadness of the carrots that she had someone tattoo them on her chest. Anyways. So I am ready for a tattoo, you see. I've always longed to get a tattoo. I come to your shop and you say, well, how about a rat? No, I want a lion. Why a lion? Because lion is a symbol of power and prowess, justice, integrity. He's a king of the jungle. I want that. Okay, you say. So you ink the pen, hook it up to the compressor, whatever, and you put the needle to my arm. And the moment the needle touches my arm, I say, oh, the hell are you doing? The lion. Oh, what part of the lion is this? It's so painful. It's the head. No, I say, start with somewhere else. The head is too painful. I say, okay. So again, the needle touches my arm and I again go, ow! What now, you ask? Well, what part of the lion is this? Well, it's the leg. Start with somewhere else. It's too painful. And every time you try to start this tattoo on my arm, I scream and I shout and I throw a temper tantrum. And after 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of doing this, you throw your pen to the ground and you say, you like the idea of a tattoo, but you're not there yet. Just because I've always loved having a tattoo on my arm, it doesn't mean I am ready for the pain. You may enjoy going back to the source. You just have no idea what the cost is and what it is that you have to give up and sacrifice. But the idea is good. And that's what all of us like. We like the ideas. It's something my daughter always tells, or my daughter always tells my son. My son doesn't like ketchup. But every time Sophia, my daughter, asks for ketchup, Yusuf says, ketchup for me, Mom. And it just sits there. And my daughter looks at my son and says, you know, Yusuf, you don't like ketchup. You just like the idea of ketchup. And it's true. We like the idea of integrity. We like the idea of philosophy. We like the idea of intimacy. We like the idea of pleasure. But the moment you begin to examine, it's far too painful, far too difficult. And very much like me, you too will throw temper tantrums. And eventually, whoever is trying to guide you in any path, they too will eventually throw their pens down and say, you know what, you're not yet ready. Why don't you go, attend to your life, come back and pay me a visit in maybe 2 months, maybe 2 years, maybe 20 years. Maybe then we'll give it another try. And that's how it is. And the difficulty is you have to try to realize where exactly you belong. Are you still belonging to the world of idea? Can you endure pain? And if so, how much? Can you sacrifice? And if so, how much? That determines your readiness, not sitting in this class. Let me end the class with this. Jean-Paul Sartre is an existential philosopher. And it's a fancy word for people who are confused, who look into the physical world for some guidance, but the world sucks. And they're left to kind of figure out what to do with their own life in the short few hours of their existence. Sartre argued that if you really, really want to get to know anyone, don't sit and have a conversation with them. That's stupid. They're going to give you what? Book talk? Someone comes and tells you, I'm a communist. Oh, that's great. So, how much money do you make? Do you have a job? Yeah. How much money do you make? About 300,000. Oh, do you have a house? Yeah. Do you have like a rental too? Yeah. Oh, okay. So what sort of a communist are you? Well, I'm a communist in ideas, in thought, not in real application. Once in a while, I help the homeless, but for the most part, I live in a culture that has made me feel profoundly insecure, so I hoard. So Sartre argued that if you want to get to know anyone or anything, apply pressure. Apply pressure so what lives on the inside can come to the surface. Freud is right. Every single one of us in this classroom, we've had so many unpleasant experiences in life. But you can't come to this class and act like a savage. You'll get dropped. You'll get fired. So what do? You put up a great front, civilized, eloquent, filled with dignity. But then you go somewhere and life is not going the way you want it to go. Pressure is applied. And then you scream and you shout and you say all sorts of nasty things. That is who we really are. Not the political self that lives inside society and needs a job and needs money and needs security. The real self is all the trash that lives within, especially for us Westerners. And Sartre argues the only way that you can fix anything, get to know what's inside. But your age, my age, I don't have time to take you out endlessly on a date so I can figure out who the hell you are. That's going to take me 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So what we'll do is this. We're going to go out. We'll go to Pete's. A Pete's where the lights are dimmed. Not very many people are there. Say, so, how's your dad? And all of a sudden, your facial expression changes a little. Say, okay. So how's your mom? Oh, you get red now. How old are you? Your face changes some more. I say, oh my God. I don't even ask for your name. I just go for the jugular. And then I have to think and say, okay, I'm 60. Do I really want to do this at this age? Do I want to go out with someone who's got this issue and that issue and the other issue? I could have done it the other way. Gone out, had sex, emotionally entangled, then slowly things leak out of you. Then I say, oh shit, I don't want to go home, but she's there. Now I have guilt, now I have shame, I have remorse. It's going to take me 5 years to walk away from the relationship. You should follow the advice of the Turkish philosophy. Get people drunk, really, really drunk. Once they get drunk, their mask falls off. Once the mask falls off, now you see who and what they are. Then you decide, do I want to hang out with them or do I not? Easy. So yes, going to the source is good, but it takes time. Listen, today's Wednesday. So I'll see you next week, Monday. Should any of you be bored, be on campus, not knowing what to do at 9 in the morning, I'm in this class with a bunch of other people. Come by, sit, relax. Be assaulted, harassed. Okay, have a nice day, have a nice weekend.